Good afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. It's actually evening, and I want you to join me so much today. We are looking forward already to Palm Sunday, and I have Johann Sebastian Bach's St. Matthew's Passion playing. One of the greatest, if not the greatest, compilation of music. And it is the story of the Passion of the Christ from St. Matthew. And that is the root of all the true gospel message that we have at Easter. And it tells the story of his passion. And this Sunday it will begin, Palm Sunday, commemorating when Jesus came into Jerusalem on a donkey, and the people waved the palm branches. Very, very significant day. Well, I really hope you are all having a good week. Spring is here. I'm enjoying it so immensely. Every day has been a little more of the beauty coming forth. And I am just so captured this year with the wonderful trees. And it is as if they are putting on their garments for all to see. It's a very late spring here, and we just now are getting the cherry blossoms, and daffodils are beginning to bloom. The tulips have not quite yet bloomed. They're just poking through. And the crocus, and what an array of glory we have for our eyes. And it is all free. It is for us to partake of in the spring. And I am wearing something that is very special to me. This, if you can see it, it's an actual work of art. And these blue turquoise are butterflies on my shawl that an artist painted and then imposed them on the shawl. So it's an actual work of art. And it has a little purse that goes with it. And the pattern is quite obvious on the purse. And this was a birthday gift to me from my daughter. And I said, I am wearing that on the tea table for sure, and showing all of you. I love this wonderful deep turquoise. The colors are glorious. And it is a Patricia Nash. It is wonderful. She uses Italian leather and wonderful silk. And my daughter knew I would love it. I love the shawl that matches the purse. So I have a few other things on my tea table today. I have a little card, and I got many wonderful birthday cards, but this was so unique and came from so far away. I thought this I have to show you because it came from Connecticut, the other side of America. And this is a card that is all flowers, and then it's a little purse, and you open it, and there it is, a little lipstick. And it's so sweet. These are hydrangeas, and then I think it's the dogwood flower on it. So very lovely. And another birthday gift I received, which is so appropriate, I thought that has to go on the tea table. It's Will and Kate, and it's a wonderful can of British tea, black tea. Oh, it smells so wonderful. I love these little boxes, and when the tea is gone, you can put more tea in it. I keep all my little tins, and it's very sweet. Will and Kate are such a blessing to the whole world. What positive wonderful young family they are. Well, because of this wonderful turquoise butterfly, it's so beautiful. I thought I have to do turquoise touches. So I went and found, this is a piece that I've had for many years, and it may be hard to see, but it's a camel on top of a turquoise triangle. And I think it's depicting the delta, the Nile Delta where the camels are, the triangle. And my sister-in-law told me camels mean prosperity. They were the way that people would travel with their goods. They still use them in the Middle East. And so then I added some turquoise and a little turquoise here. And it's for you. Happy spring, butterflies and flowers. Well, I have been writing poems, and this has been so fun. I used to write songs. I wrote actually a lot of songs when I was young. I recorded them, I performed them, and then I've been so busy in other things in life, I haven't really been writing. And I sort of forgot about it, and I thought, well, maybe that was just a part of my life that's over, and I'm now doing other things. But on the first day of spring, which was a week ago Monday, the 20th of March, I woke up with a poem song, and it just came pouring out of my, well, I would say my pen. However, I was still in my cozy bed and it was cold. I didn't want to quite move yet. And I had this rhyme going and I thought, I'll grab my phone. So I grabbed my phone and I found my own name on there for a text, and I wrote my poem that way. And it was perfect because then I could make my corrections and send it. Now I'll tell you a secret. This has been happening every morning. I've been writing a poem every morning. Well, this morning I wrote a poem, and I thought I need to share this with my wonderful tea table friends. And it is called Spring Painting by Susan Shoemaker. The bay is filled with sparkle. The sun is on the rise. The birds, they are a-singing. This is the morning prize. The smell of spring now blooming. The earth is soft and wet. The wind is gentle blowing. The moon it now has set. The trees are fully garlanded, dressed in their royal robes of pink and white, such splendor. God's paintbrush splash this orb. What color, what aroma, my garden doth display. The daffodil arising, the tulips stand arrayed. The color it is growing, azaleas glistening strong. The primrose still a-blooming, the robin sings a song. The color it is growing, azaleas, oh, I read that. Okay, I'll go on. The peony stands in beauty, it takes my breath away. These flowers in their glory reflect pure color's sway. This scene reflects a master, an artist, perfect line. This is his gift to us each year. His message, love divine. And that is how I felt so strongly with the fact that I've always thought in the fall, my mother used to say in the autumn, well, God is painting, he's taken his paintbrush out and he's painting a picture, he's painting the colors. Well, that is so true. And particularly where I live, the autumns are glorious. But the spring, his paintbrush truly is out. And in reflection, even in the deep woods up in the mountains where no one sees, the trees still bloom. They still show their beauty. The wildflowers grow. And then along with that, you get the wonderful scent of the flowers. And I brought the smallest flower to the tea table. It's a piece of heather. And it is so glorious if you look at it and analyze the little purple, I don't think you would call them leaves, they're little blooms. They're so perfect. And this is the smallest side of the flower world. And then when you look at the big, beautiful hydrangeas and the peony, oh, the peony it does take my breath away. If you would like a copy of my poem, I'm happy to send it to you. Just request it and I'll text it out to you. Well, I had a very unique experience because I was, I'm going to just play this softly here. And I was wanting to print out a poem. I actually wrote a poem for my African Kenyan students. And on my phone, when you text it, I emailed it then to my husband, and he said, I'll print it out for you. And when he printed it out, it was 4 pages. Oh my goodness, because that's the only difficulty. It's going long ways in couplets. So I have to have someone help me reformat it so that it can go on 1 page. But it's amazing what you can put in a poem. And the more you write, the more you can write. And I just get a theme in the morning and I just start and it flows. And I highly recommend it. And I know a lot of you are poets and writers. So, having a little bit every day. And then my friend texted me, she said, well, Johann Sebastian Bach, he wrote every day. Well, I can see why, because you flow and it keeps you in shape. And then the next day it's easier, and then it's easier. And a poem can express deep thoughts that you can give to people that may be difficult to fully express with just words. Well, oh my goodness, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please get your tea and I will be waiting here for you. You could pause. And I thought, I have to get turquoise. I'm just with this wonderful butterfly. I'm into turquoise. I've always liked turquoise. It's my birthstone. Aquamarine is the birthstone of March. And I'm wearing one today. So I found this is what you would call, I guess, mid-century. This is what the young people, they like the mid-century. Well, that's the 50s and 60s, and this is a teapot and a creamer and sugar. I will take my cup, tried to find a turquoise cup, and I found this one, and this is, I believe, an English cup. And it has the turquoise. I rinsed it off, and now I'm sorry it had a little drip on it, but I want to show you this unique set. And this set it has a little curl on it, but it's all it's all turquoise with gold. And what it says on it, I'm going to read to you because, you know, this China is like a little history for all of us to learn. And it says USA. And it's got a name, but it's hard to read for me. Deemer China Company, and it's carat gold, and I can't read, it's very fine print. But anyway, so this is made in the USA. So isn't that interesting? Let me pick it up and show you. So it's a little more modern, but actually it's probably 40s or 50s, 60s, I don't know. But you know, teapots are also classic. And this blue is so gorgeous. Oh my goodness, it's such a, I don't know if you can see how deep of blue it is. So I have made, this is evening. I'm in an evening mode right now. And so I will tell you, this is peppermint tea tonight because I need to sleep. I have a big day tomorrow. And I definitely need to have a good night's sleep. So that's my peppermint tea and a little splash of milk. I also like the Good Earth spice tea, but I have ran out. That is also herbal. Oh my goodness, that's good. That is a mint medley, spearmint and peppermint mixed. Oh my goodness. Now I have something special. Yes, I have something very special for my darling, darling little tea children. Oh my goodness. I wish you were all here in person because a special friend came this week, my friend Robin, and she comes every once in a while and gives me a violin lesson. And I'm trying to pick up, and I attended probably hundreds of violin lessons with my children, but I have wanted to play, so she's helping me learn. I'm definitely an intermediate level, but it's fun. And she said I was doing good. So that's exciting because it's hard to find time to practice. And oh my, the violin, it is exposure. It has to be perfect or it is not in tune. So I'm pretty good at the intonation, but I'm really working on my bowing to make my bowing really smooth and so that the good tone comes. The tone comes from the bow. And Robin was telling me it's really like learning two instruments. The left hand is playing the notes. The bow arm is where that beautiful tone is. And my son Samuel actually studied with Robin when he was quite young. And he has one of the most beautiful, it's called bow arms. People will say, oh, you have a beautiful bow arm. What the bow arm does, it's the thing that gives that deep tone, that rich tone. And Samuel was quite young, and he played at the Episcopal Church in Shelton when he was probably 10. And he played the Handel's Largo. And people just started crying. It was such a beautiful, beautiful presentation with such deep expression. It just, and that's what the bow arm does. So I'm working on that. Well, Robin came, I said all that to say this, and she has 40 people coming to her house for Easter. This woman is brave. And she brought my husband and I cookies, and I said, I am saving those for the tea table. They're from a special tea shop. I think I had your Valentine cookie on here. And this is a bunny. If you can see, he's all decorated. And she sent one to my husband and one to me. And I've had to protect these so no one would have them until you saw them at the tea table. Aren't they darling? Well, she is having 40 people to her house for dinner, family and friends, mostly family, relatives, children, grandchildren. And she's getting a cookie like this for each one. And let me tell you, that is a real undertaking. Isn't that wonderful, though, to have a gathering like that for everyone to come? And especially after we've come out of this COVID, to have a community gathering is so wonderful for Easter. And I am having some family here, but it's not 40 people. That takes the cake, I think. So also one of the songs that I was playing was very interesting because I was reading about Bach, and because I was curious when my friend said he wrote every day. Well, I looked him up again and I started reading, and there is so much written about Bach. And you know, Glenn Gould, the great Canadian pianist of the last century, he said Bach is the greatest architect of music in the world. He builds, he flows, he creates. And all the musicologists seem to concur that his music is something that no other music has. It is a harmonic flow of melody along with the supporting structure of weaving and bass and such variety. And you can listen every day to Classical King FM 98.1, and it is from 12 to 12:30. It's Bach for lunch. And they have the most wonderful pieces. And I love the announcers. You learn so much. It's like being in a music class. They tell you when he wrote it and what it means. And you will grow in your knowledge of classical music. And he wrote so much. It is said that you could sit at a desk and start copying right now, and it would take you 80 years to copy all of Bach's music. It's the oratorios, it's the violin concertos, it's the fabulous string quartets, it's the music for trumpet and brass, the chorales. There was a time when he would have to write a complete chorale for every Sunday of worship. And that is why he's so prolific. You know, when people have to meet a deadline like that, and they wanted a new one every single Sunday, and then he had to rehearse the choirs, and his children were apart, his wife was apart. And, you know, Johann Sebastian Bach was a happy man. He had a good sense of humor. He loved his children. He had financial struggles, which almost all the musicians had. But then everything would work out and everything would come through. The Lutherans call him the fifth apostle, you know, because there's four, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then they said Johann Sebastian Bach took the gospel and put it into music. You know, he wrote the St. John's Passion, the St. Matthew's Passion. He has so many, the whole story is there. Plus, he was a true Lutheran, and he took Luther's theology 150 years after Martin Luther and put it into music. And when you're singing Bach, you're worshiping, you're singing of God's love. You are liberating your soul. And it's very healthy music. He was very long-lived because of his music. There's an energy, and he also is credited with really developing the bass line. You know, you'll hear his bass. My husband plays bass, and I have a son that plays cello. And that bass line in Bach, it is just driving. It is so, oh my goodness, in the Brandenburg quartets, which, you know, they're just incredible. If you want to hear something that'll give you a lot of energy, look up the Brandenburg and listen. And it's just driving music, but it gives you such, it's moving, it's driving, but it's totally relaxed. It's totally, there's just so much love. And I've been privileged to know so many different teachers and violin teachers and musical people that were conductors and leaders. I have never known one that didn't absolutely ascribe that Bach was top. Just the top. He's the apex. And everyone looks to him as the father of classical music. So I always feel like I used to always go to a concert, the St. Matthew's Passion or the St. John's. It's so difficult now to get to Seattle, and I don't know what's going on up there right now. But we have our devices. We can listen to it. And there is a lecture online that I heard years ago on the St. Matthew's Passion, and it was given by Irving Berlin, the great conductor from New York. And he explains what's going on in the St. Matthew's Passion. And he said this is the greatest piece of music ever composed. And it's all there that when Jesus is going up the hill of Calvary with his cross, the music is going up, and he describes it. It's a fascinating lecture, and he is a brilliant musician that can really unlock the beauty for you so you can become enriched. And this is what we need to do. And we need to teach the children and give them our wonderful heritage. I have one thing, you know, when I read my poem, I have a tray, and I just don't know if you're going to be able to make out what it is. But it is Romeo and Juliet, and they're carved in this tray. And I thought, for poetry, I will show it to my tea table. If you don't, I'll have to look at the video after. If it doesn't show, I'll try to bring it again when we're outside, because I think the lines would, the carving is white on white, and it's a little difficult to make out. But I was thinking of Shakespeare. I just feel like Shakespeare, he's in the same category as Johann Sebastian Bach. What a great, brilliant writer. And really, his plays, unless you study them, they're over our head because of the language. But I have discovered, reading the children's version, we have a book by the Lambs. They were a brother and sister, Charles and Mary Lamb, just like the little sheep, Lamb. You can get that book. And it's all of the Shakespeare plays written for children. Now, this was over 150 years ago, maybe longer. So it's extremely high level still. But you can understand it. You can grasp it. And I think that it's a wonderful way to begin to read Shakespeare. And people don't realize, but that Shakespeare was such a really important part of all of the education. I know when I was a sophomore in 10th grade, our entire whole half a year of English was studying Macbeth. And we had a real English teacher, and we went around the room and we read it. We read the whole play, and she explained everything. And it was wonderful. And I think about that play. And then the next year we did Julius Caesar. And that wasn't quite as good because we didn't read it. The teacher would get kind of films and try to show us. And you couldn't hear them in those days very good, and it was kind of on the screen. But sitting and reading it really makes the play real. And when I was in college, I got a little part-time job. I was in Kirkland at Northwest, it's now University, Northwest College. This is my first year of college. And we all had little jobs. And there were a lot of University of Washington professors that lived in that area because they lived on that. They would just cross the floating bridge over Lake Washington and go to the U. Well, they would come and look for college kids to do jobs. And I got a job cleaning house for a lady named Mrs. Jenny McCarthy. And her husband was Brian McCarthy. They were from England. He was an Oxford scholar. He was a brilliant biologist. He was actually in Who's Who. And he was here on a grant doing postgraduate studies and probably teaching. Well, Jenny was so English. She was so nice. And she had thick ginger red hair, and she pulled it to the side and then had a side ponytail. And she would pick me up in her car and take me to her house, a real interesting house. In those days, she had a lot of copper, and I would clean the copper. It was up, all kinds of copper. And they had two children. Listen to their names, Penelope and Jonathan. And oh, they all had English accents, and they were oh so polite. And I would clean the children's room, and she was very generous with me. She paid me very well, and she'd drive me back to college. And she gave me, she gave me a jumper that I wore for years. It was the color of doe leather. I think it was deer leather, because it was like the leather that they make the lederhosen out of, which is deer leather. It had 3 buttons here, and then it just hung. And it always smelled like real leather, and leather was really in style in those days. I loved that jumper. Well, one day I was cleaning her house, and we were cleaning she had a little table, like a little square card table in the living room, and on it there were 4 chairs. There were little Shakespeare plays, books, and four of the same. And I said, "Oh, would you like me to clean this?" She goes, "Oh no, that's for our reading." And what they did was they would have company over and they would read Shakespeare. That was their entertainment. And I thought, how intelligent, how wonderful. I feel we've missed a lot of opportunity. We need to think through the use of our time. It seems like everyone is on the screen all the time now, and that cannot be good. And that's why I'm talking about writing poetry, quoting poetry, and then reading together. Reading a play like a Shakespeare. It would be really fun to see how far we could get and how much we could understand. I tell you, Macbeth is not hard to understand. And there's so much in there of insight into human nature. And there's nothing new under the sun. And Shakespeare, actually, and I read a lot about Shakespeare, he gives the Bible credit for his writings. The Bible had just been translated, the Geneva Bible, into English. And he had that Bible. And he said that Bible is what gave him the ability to write all his poetry and stories. And you can see the themes, the good king, the bad king, the evil and good fighting one another, and then good overcoming. And I will just close. One of my very favorite stories in all of Shakespeare is The Merchant of Venice. Now, I never read that play or saw the play, but I read the book. I read the Lamb's book. What an incredible play. What an incredible story. Portia, she's the wise woman. the wise, she's an attorney, and she defends the innocent. Anyways, that is a wonderful story and wonderful for children. So I think we need to really think deeply about how we spend our time, and if we have young children, can we bring them into the greatness of what we have, our heritage in Western civilization? The opera, the plays, the music, the song, the poetry. In the past, it was always considered poetry was the center of all learning. You know, in Greece, the children were taught with the Iliad, which is a poem by Homer, and the story of all their wars, and much of it is based on true stories. Some of it is lore, but that's how they learned. That's a poem. The Hebrew young men would learn, and they did the same as the Greeks. They would copy the Iliad to learn to write. They would recite it to learn to speak. They would read it to learn to read. And they would memorize it to learn that rhythm. And the Jewish Israelite young men did the same thing with the book of Deuteronomy. The book of Deuteronomy is considered a poem, even though it doesn't rhyme in English, but Hebrew poetry is different. It's considered a poem. And the lyric poem, the rhythm, Milton's Paradise Lost, it's a poem. And there's something about chanting a poem, reflecting a poem, speaking a poem. It makes people intelligent. It helps them retain. The Psalms are beautiful. Much of the Bible is actually poetry. It's considered poetry even though it doesn't rhyme. You know, there's called the poetic books. Psalms, Proverbs, Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes. They're poetical books. And when you read them, there's a rhythm. And reading good truth helps one be a good person. And we have a lot crashing around us in this world, but we can overcome the evil with the good, and to focus ourselves on that which is good, true, and beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today. This has been so fun, and I pray that you have the most beautiful Palm Sunday with your family. And if you can, go to church. Go to church. It's a good place to go. It's a very calming place. And take time to reflect and worship. Well, have a great week, and I will be waiting for you and looking to see you next time. Oh, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. People think it doesn't cost a dime, it's free. And it's hard for me to get all these sent out to everyone. So if you could subscribe and push the notification bell, as soon as I upload a tea talk, it'll come right to you. And you can share it. And if you like it, a little like is nice. Okay. Well, God bless you. Have a wonderful week. And I will look forward to seeing you next time.